An RTS adaptation of Warhammer 40k's turn-based board game might sound a little ridiculous at first, but Tinderless Interactive have captured the essence of what made the source material so great, and made a real-time strategy game that's challenging but also really compulsive to play. It struggles with explaining its depth to the player at times, and too often you're left to figure it out alone, but as a Warhammer 40k experience goes, you really can't get much better than this. For those not blessed by the Emperor's might, Battlefleet Gothic Armada is based in the Warhammer 40k universe and adapted from the board game. That means you take command in the single-player campaign of a huge human warship, or several of them actually, to battle other 40k races, the Eldar, Orc and Chaos elements. As the 40k universe is built on over-the-top and excessive weaponry and comic book characterization, I'm pleased to report that Armada has captured that perfectly. Loud, shouty acting puts you firmly into the Emperor's embrace, and the depiction of the Orcs and Eldar are down to a T.
Act cautiously, Sergeant. I have a bad feeling about this.
Sir, we found a survivor. Sir, the station is a trap. We're under attack by traitor forces.
So let's move on to the gameplay. So after choosing your fleet, each skirmish or campaign battle begins with deployment. It's here that you can assign tactics and begin to manage the many aspects of each ship you have. In the beginning this is going to be overwhelming, and honestly it actually continues to be overwhelming unless you're going to dedicate your spare time to learning all of this stuff and write it down. Fortunately, Armada has thought of this, and you can auto-assign most elements of these systems in battle, so you don't need to stress about it so much. Once all that's taken care of, the real show starts and your fleet is in motion. Armada takes place in 2D, which isn't as restrictive as you might think, given the inherent complexities built into the game. Each ship has multiple abilities, and what seems impossible comes possible thanks to a slowdown mode activated by the spacebar. This tactical cogitator...
Activating tactical cogitators!
As my navigator likes to shout incessantly, enables you to manage your fleet's abilities in order to manoeuvre or attack, but without slowing the game down so much it stops becoming an RTS. It's not enough of a slowdown to feel comfortable going through all your abilities and doing it all with ease, but that's kind of half the point of an RTS, is to feel just enough in control, but also still have the adrenaline-fueled stress of a frantic battle to deal with. Being able to control your thrusters in these slowdowns is key to mastering winning tactics. The fuel supply is limited to a meter and it's easy to burn through it quickly, but making a handbrake turn to avoid torpedoes is worth the risk before it refills. These moments when you expertly move around a battlefield, ram through several enemy ships or evade destruction are really fist-pumpingly good, and convince me that developers have really created one of the best Warhammer 40k RTS games ever made. Renown is the currency you earn in any match to upgrade your fleet, and this is where Armada really starts to show its colours by allowing you to craft a relatively unique fleet as you go. This becomes far more valuable as you venture into the multiplayer with the 4 different factions in play. Each battle can be so different to the last, with each admiral having different tactics and upgrades, making this part of the game, once you advance to an intermediate stage, truly unique and satisfying to play. Now onto the multiplayer itself. I mean, balance at the moment is always an issue until the game has been out in the wild for a bit, and I've had only a few minor problems playing online so far. Matches are 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2, and though it would be great to have 3 or 4 players in the mix, a single fleet can be so complex that just fighting on one front is really quite enough to keep you occupied. But the single player campaign is long and winding, with a narrative that branches and introduces the various factions in a pretty cool way. What it lacks really is a decent tutorial that explains all the systems you can expect to use throughout your career. Maybe it's just the way that you're bawled at by your superiors and inferiors, but I felt explanations went by too fast and they were really difficult to remember. It's nothing deal breaking, but this is actually one RTS I prefer to play with a vintage Amiga game manual beside me, but then actually I'm really old and grey as well. The difficulty doesn't help with this aspect of Armada either, as it will gleefully punish you for any errors you make and usually lead to defeat on most maps that I played in the beginning. Now you can take this difficulty and make excuses, or actually man the hell up and keep learning on how best to manage your ships and your captains. And only occasionally did I feel like Armada was screwing with me and being unfair, and that's pretty much down to the mission types you sometimes have to play. Escort missions and assassination missions are the ones that suck the most, and usually end up in defeat or just frustration. Now these defeats also lead to a consequence, but kind of in a good way. I mean, you could save scum and reload and keep trying to win every map, but the game just plays a bit better when you just take your medicine and move on. You'll get less resources after losing, but it will also have some interesting consequences later on down the line in the campaign. Those gripes I've outlined are minor, as Battlefield Gothic Armada conveys the suitably epic universe of Warhammer 40k in an RTS that offers decent depth and a great atmosphere. The campaign is great, and if you allow the game to punish you for defeat, it'll bring more impact and consequence to later battles. Sure, the story is ridiculous, but hell, that's what you'd expect from a 40k game, and it fits the genre perfectly. With a multiplayer that has as much nuance and depth as any ship that you can manage, Armada is well worth your time if you're a fan of the 40k universe. For the Emperor, 8.5 out of 10.